Welcome back, everyone. It's the Bourbon Judge. Happy Sunday. Late night, right? I mean, typically I would film like in the early afternoon. However, played golf, had a later tea time, got home, said, hey, honey, I'm going to go ahead and film. And she said, no, you're not. We have family dinner. So anybody who's smart out there and who's been married, you know the saying, happy wife, happy life, right? So here we are in the evening, right? Little evening bourbon, right? So had a good day on the course, went out, the front nine was actually, honestly, it was horrible, straight up, can't lie. But the back nine, I was like, I'm throwing in the towel. I had a flask, hanging out with my buddies. We threw back a little bit of bourbon. Oddly enough, on the back nine, I tore it up in a good way. So I guess maybe I should have a little sip of bourbon in the front nine to kind of take the edge off a little bit. But hey, the back nine was actually great. So shot bogey golf, can't beat that, right? But enough about me, enough about golf. What are we reviewing today, Bourbon Judge? Cut to the chase, my man. All right, so we are going to go ahead and review Bardstown Bourbon Company. So let's hit some super quick facts on Bardstown Bourbon Company. So I've seen them, first and foremost, you see the bottles in the liquor store, and I'm always like, is it good? Is it not good? I don't know, right? They have all these different types out there. So Bardstown Bourbon Company, obviously a Kentucky-based distillery. Pretty cool. They have a restaurant on site. I've never been to the restaurant, but they do have it on site. And they kind of changed the game a little bit in terms of bourbon. So what do you mean, Bourbon Judge, by that? So typically, most distilleries put out their own products, right? For the most part. This one, they do put out their own product, but most of the different bourbons that they have are typically, traditionally, a blend of either 3, sometimes even 4 different bourbons. So they use bourbon, they'll call it from Indiana, from Kentucky, from Tennessee, and then their own as well, right? So if you ever look on the side of the bottle, you'll see, they'll say, for example, this bottle consists of 30% Indiana sourced bourbon, 30% Tennessee sourced bourbon, and 40% Bardstown Company distilled bourbon, right? So they make their own, but they always kind of blend it with other source bourbons from the other 3 big states, right? Tennessee, Indiana, and Kentucky. So that's kind of like, I think like their little space, right? That's kind of where they hang out in. That's what they do. And hey, if it's good, it's good. If it's not good, it's not good. I've never had, honestly, any Bardstown bourbon before. So, my wife got this for me for my birthday. So I was super excited. So I'm like, what, let me go ahead and review this with my friends and out there hanging out, watching the channel. So here we are. All right. So this one in particular, now that I told you all about that, this one, oddly enough, is not a blend of 3. It's actually Tennessee. So it's not even their own. Again, this is 100% Tennessee sourced bourbon, right? So it's Tennessee sourced bourbon, is aged 9 years, right? Aged 9 years, and then it's aged an additional 18 months in French oak red wine barrels, right? So it's aged an additional 18 months in those red wine barrels. And the proof on this bad boy, this one is, let me just double check, it is 100 proof. Now, I will say Bardstown bourbons, they typically are a little bit on the pricier side. They go anywhere from $60 up to like $130, right? This one, the MSRP is anywhere from like $110 up to like $120, $125. I think my wife got this one though for about $110. So definitely a little bit on the pricier side, but they do have some that are a little bit cheaper as well. So we shall see if this one is good, right? I've heard a lot about all the different versions they have out there, the Fusion series, the Discovery series. I've seen them. I'm like, you know what? I just want to try this. Is it good or is it not good, honestly? So let's go ahead and pour some real quick. All right. I will say, a lot of times when a distillery finishes bourbon in a like a red wine or like a red wine finish, for me, it's either really good or it just, it's horrible, right? I'm not gonna lie. That's typically the case. There's no in-between, right? There's none of that in-between stuff. It's typically either really good or horrible. So I'm hoping this is a good one. We shall see. So from a color standpoint, obviously we know this bourbon is finished in the red wine, the French red wine barrels. So it's very dark, right? This is a beautiful, dark red. I mean, gosh, this is just like, wow, it's like almost like a deep deep ruby red with a little bit of brown just kind of mixed in there. Very nice, all right? Let's get into the nose a little bit here. All right, so from a nose standpoint, it's everything that you would expect, right? I mean, it's finishing a wine, so what's honestly just screaming, and I mean 100% screaming to me is tons of like blackberries, blueberries. Even maybe like some strawberries as well. It's very just like fruity and just you know, very, the wine is just like strong. Okay. Now what I do like, okay, bourbon's still there. Still got the bourbon in the background, kind of like hanging out in the background. The oak is there from the traditional 9-year age process, the normal bourbon aging process. The oak is there, and even like the caramel, maybe a little bit of brown sugar in the background, but that's more like in the background. It's like it's there, but the wine, that really just all those fruit, those notes, and the oak, that just stands out. All right, at 100 proof and at $110, the question is going to be, is this good or is it not that good? I don't know. Folks, as I always say, cheers, salute. Thank you to each and every one of you guys out there. There's so many different names. I could name people for days and days, but I'll just say thank you to everybody, right? So many different people, K-Banks, Cleveland Kid, Carino, so many different people that are out there that watch the channel. I really do appreciate all of you guys and gals. Means a lot. I always love enjoying spending my Sundays with you. So cheers. Okay. All right. Let me get a little bit more before I give a little bit of feedback. Okay. Well, that's interesting. A couple things. Number one, a little bit more oak in the finish, in the palate, than I would have imagined, right? A little bit more oak, which is nice. The red wine finish definitely comes through, right? In the palate. I mean, it comes through big times. All those grapes, right? The blackberries, the blueberries, the grape, a little bit, maybe even some strawberries in there as well. But the caramel, the bourbon does come back and say, hey, you might have been finished for 18 months in red wine barrels, but it's still bourbon, right? That caramel, a little bit of brown sugar, that is kind of all blended in very well together. So the question is this a buy or is it a leave on the shelf, right? At $110, the judgment is in. For me and me personally, this is a buy. In fact, I'm gonna enjoy this last little sip because you guys know me. I do not leave good bourbon in the glass. Whew. So I will say $110 is definitely a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, right? I do not take it lightly that is $110. But I will say that is phenomenal, in my opinion. I've had a lot of red wine finishes out there, and a lot of them are good. Some are To me, this is exceptional. It's really, really, really good. That was really good. Whew, wow. Very nice. Hey, the white fella picked out a very nice bottle. Shout out to Mrs. Judge. Well, folks, as always, thank you guys and gals, honestly, for watching the channel. As always, peace out. Talk to you guys next week. Later.